It's an honor for us to have Pastor Russell Evans from Planet Shakers in Melbourne. But Planet Shakers isn't only a church. How did it all start?
Planet Shakers actually started as a youth conference.
Okay.
I had an encounter with God in a meeting, powerful, just had the fire of God come on me, and he said, start a conference called Planet Shakers. And I said, what's that? And so we went back to our youth group, and I told our youth group we're starting a youth conference that empowers generations. And then what happened is it just began to grow. First year we had 300 in the day, 700 at night, and within 7 years there was 30,000 people in 4 cities.
Okay.
And people were traveling in buses for 48 hours, young people, sleeping on the floor, getting at services at 6 a.m. to line up for a 9 a.m. service. So that, and then our worship started to be powerful at the conferences, and then we started recording albums. And a lot of people know us for our music, but it really came out of the conference.
Okay, and that was how many years after that?
I think we recorded in 2000 and we started in 1997.
Okay.
So,
and why the music? It was your passion, your wife?
I'm a musician, so I've always done worship, and that was always something strong that we had. And Sam actually developed at Planet Shakers Conference. That's where she developed her worship. In fact, the first year, her job was in the green room cutting sandwiches.
Oh, really?
And then the worship wasn't what I wanted it to be in the first year.
Yeah.
So I walked into the green room and said, next year you're leading worship.
Okay.
And that's where she started.
And she's also a great preacher, isn't she?
Amazing preacher.
Yeah, we've had her here. We've heard her testimony. But you were born in Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
Why?
Because my father was a missionary there.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they were there. My grandparents actually were missionaries in India, and then went to Papua New Guinea as missionaries. And so my father went from Bible college in Australia to Papua New Guinea, so I was born there. Okay.
Your father was also the pastor of one of the biggest churches for many years in Australia. What happened? You went from Papua New Guinea to Adelaide?
My mum had she got sick.
Okay.
And one night she had hepatitis, and she was lying in her bed, and a snake came into her room, and she actually had a nervous breakdown, so we had to come back to Australia. And my dad took on a church that was about 150 people, and became the largest church in Australia. And then he became the leader of the movement that we were in, and out of that there were 80 churches that started, and it grew to 1,200 churches. Some of those churches are worldwide now, known like Hillsong, are from that movement.
Oh, wow.
Planet Shakers are from that movement.
Yes. How did you receive the Lord? Because you were born as a missionary kid, but you had to have an encounter. Tell us.
Yeah, I think I was always soft towards God, and growing up I would respond to many altar calls to get right with Jesus. They used to have those movies about Jesus coming back, end time movies.
Okay, yes.
And I would always get right with God because I didn't want to be left behind. Yes. But I think in my teenage years is when I really encountered God in a powerful way. And actually, when I was 9, I got baptized in the Holy Spirit. So when I was 14, I couldn't deny God because I could speak in a language I couldn't make up. But really, when I was 15, I had a prophecy of my life. And then at the age of 17, that's when I had an encounter that, I call it a defining encounter. So I was saved, but 17 is when I really got serious with what I was doing.
All right. Well, could you give a special word for our church, just to finish?
Sure. I think your church is one of the greatest churches in the world, and is actually positioned in a season of increase. And in that season of increase, there's going to be a stretching. Isaiah 54, stretch the tent pegs. There's going to be an increase of the measure you give and the measure you sow. But what's going to happen is there's going to be a multiplication and an overflow and a momentum that won't be able to be stopped. In fact, the season that you're coming into, what I feel is a season that is literally going to propel you from a church of tens of thousands to going to a church of hundreds of thousands. Wow. And it's a strategic time, and it's when the church all come together and say, we want to increase our measure, we want to stretch our tent pegs. And in every increase season, there's tension. So you always embrace tension. Tension's good because it makes you bigger and better. And I just think that you're in the greatest season you're about to see. I think in the next 5 years, you'll be astounded at what God has done. Just as there was a key that God gave you to see the increase to where it is now, it's like there's a new door that's opening. That's what I feel God's about to release.
All right, thank you. That was Pastor Russell Evans from Planet Shakers.